Hey guys, Cameron, and I know this is a very confusing review because, as you guys know, last week I did in fact review the crossover for Legends of Tomorrow. Season 2, Episode 7, Invasion. I did review that episode. The only reason I reviewed that episode is because I want to finish the crossover. I thought it worked well with the crossover. There wasn't too much that I need to know, and I know that I said that I was going to catch up before then. I meant to do that, but I just didn't get caught up till now. So this is going to be my review for the 3 episodes before then, and let me just say that I really don't have a ton to say about these 3 episodes, because while I do and really enjoy all 3 of these episodes, there's really not a ton to say, really. I mean, Legends of Tomorrow is a very in-the-moment kind of show, where you watch it, it's really fun, but you don't really have a ton to say about it. And while I do have stuff to say, don't expect this to be a very long review, because a lot of what I'm talking about has already gotten resolved in the crossover, so there really is no point to talk about anything that went on with Stein's arc, because we already know how all that stuff concluded. So I'm going to talk about everything but that. Everything but Stein and Jax. I'm going to talk about everything else because it is in fact relevant to what's going on. So let's start off by talking about Season 2, Episode 4, Abominations. So after coming off of episode 3, I very much was very into this season. I've really been enjoying this season so far. And episode 4 in particular, I think, is one that really does stand out from the rest of these episodes, because it tackles a very dark subject matter, but handles it in a very, I think, in a very realistic way. And I really did like the way it was done, because this episode essentially has everyone being sent back to the 1800s to deal with this zombie outbreak that's going on. And that was definitely very interesting to see, this whole zombie outbreak. It was definitely fun to see that. But the more interesting aspect of this episode is that this really is Jax and Amaya's episode. It belongs to them without a doubt. I mean, there is other stuff that happens in this episode, don't get me wrong. Like, you have Sarah and Nate, and you can tell that they're trying to set them up as possibly being a couple in the future, which I'm fine with. I actually like seeing Sarah, because, Sarah's supposed to be bisexual. She doesn't just like girls, she's bisexual, as we know. So I do kind of like the way that those two were interacting. I thought that was kind of fun to see. We get this character of Grant, who, Sarah, of course, women weren't as strong as they were then, but I like the way that Grant kind of gave her this pep talk. I thought that was definitely interesting to see. And we get to see Ray, without his Adam costume, which also was really cool. That's something cool in all 3 of these episodes. We get to see Ray without his Adam costume, and all that stuff I thought was cool to see. But the main stuff in this episode, is the fact that, like I said, this episode really belongs to Jax and Amaya, because basically, they do decide to go along this mission. Jax is very reluctant because he knows that nothing good really happens in this time period, and that's just not safe for him. But they do, in fact, end up becoming slaves, basically. They're undercover and everything, and they're forced to watch slaves be abused in order to not mess with history too much, because they know they can't really do anything, and their reluctance to join and just seeing them watching what's going on was honestly really well done. I gotta say, this was handled in a really graphic way. Like, I was surprised by how graphic and how gritty this really got. I mean, this really felt like a real show, and I know Legends of Tomorrow can be really cheesy sometimes, but this was very well done. Just seeing Jax's reaction and Maya's reaction of seeing these horrible things happen to these slaves, and of course they know it happens, but they can't really interfere. It's really hard to watch at points, but they did a really good job at not making it too heavy-handed here. You could understand what they're going through. You can understand why they don't want to get involved, and that's something else that I definitely really did like. But Jax does end up getting captured by the slave owner, and it's in the farm where the owner keeps his punished slaves. He gets a real close-up history lesson, the awfulness of the average slave in the pre-Civil War South, and Amaya does save him, and I definitely really did like that. I like the way that these two work together, and Amaya arrives. Jax actually does come to a new decision. They're actually going to try to free these slaves and change history, because the history needs changing. So they kind of go full-on Birth of a Nation, where they try to get a slave outbreak, and the slave owners are in fact killed by the zombies, and they do lead the slaves in an all-out zombie slaughter, which was pretty cool to see. But I thought all of the stuff of us seeing the way the slaves are treated and seeing the way that things are being handled there were really well done. You could see the loyalty that these slaves had. You could see the situation they were in, and you can see Jax and Amaya really caring for them. These are two characters who I've really enjoyed. I really like what we got in Amaya so far. I think Jax has actually become a really great character. I used to not like him, but I think this season he's really come into his own. And especially in this episode, I think they did some really great stuff with them. I thought it was really interesting to see them in this setting for a change, and that's something that really did stick out about this episode for me. So overall, episode 4 I thought was a really fun zombie episode, but also had some really great deep stuff in it. Like I said, surprisingly, some really deep stuff, especially for Legend of Tomorrow, a show that doesn't usually get that deep. I like that they did that, and the tones did feel jumbled at points, so for the most part, I thought it worked as an episode. It's a show you need to suspend your disbelief a lot, and I think it worked okay for this episode. But that's enough for episode 4. Let's jump into episode 5, Compromised, which I have to say is definitely the weakest of this season and the weakest of these three. But again, this season has been really great so far that even bad episodes are still really fun. I overall did have fun with this episode. This episode starts off simple enough. You know, we have Damien Darhk, and we're in the 80s, and basically Damien Darhk is going back to the 80s to kill Ronald Reagan, and the Legends obviously have to stop him from that. Now, I was a bit worried about them going back to the 80s, because as you guys know, the 80s storyline last year is probably my least favorite storyline the show has ever done, with Rip and, prisoning them and everything. But with Rip gone and Nate into the fold, I was hoping that, I was thinking, okay, maybe this will be a little bit more fun. And it started off really fun. They're doing what they can to keep their cover from Darhk while also trying to, stop the kidnapping from happening. They're trying to be as secretive as possible. But then you have Sarah, and oh my god, Sarah. I mean, I understand that Sarah has a grudge against Darhk. She should have a grudge against Darhk. She has every reason to be mad at Darhk. I mean, he killed her sister, for crying out loud. That's not really something to just, forget about. That's not something you forget. That is something that obviously has stayed with her. She is this entire season, she has been debating whether or not what to do with him. And she's doing what she can to not kill Darhk, but then at the last second, she goes right up to Darhk and basically tries to kill him, completely foregoing their cover, and I don't know why she decided to do, well, actually, I do know why she decided to do this. They did this mainly because they wanted to throw drama in there, clearly, just because we needed some sort of drama for what was going on, and I felt this was completely out of place. It did not make any sense with Laurel's character whatsoever, and, not Laurel, I mean Sarah's character. It did not make any sense with her, and I don't really know why they went in this direction with her. But then, to top things off, it's even worse when we see Sarah. She decides to, not go after Darhk, not kill him, but literally reveals his entire life story, which pretty much fucks up everything, because now he knows he's in danger. He's going to try to change everything, and this essentially gets him to start the Legion of Doom, and which I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. I like seeing him. He's teaming up with Reverse Flash, who, of course, as they don't know that Reverse Flash is really working with Darhk, so I think that's gonna be fun to see. And I did like seeing that overall, but come on, Sarah. I mean, Sarah's supposed to be the leader of the team. We're supposed to want her to be the leader. When she does stuff like this, though, why are we supposed to want her to be the leader? And it felt so out of character. Sarah's not someone who just randomly, abruptly makes decisions. Like, she usually takes her time, she thinks about them, and she really didn't think about this at all, really. I don't know why she made this decision. It felt so out of place. It felt so different from anything else that Sarah would usually do, and I don't know why we went this direction with her. Very weird overall. But the other stuff going on, I thought, was strong enough. We do have some stuff going on with Stein. Like I said, that arc is resolved, but this is the episode where we really get introduced to it, where Stein sees his younger self. He kind of decides to change things up a bit, and he ends up making it to the point where him and Clarissa, stuffs to go differently with them, so I thought that was definitely interesting to see. But that's what kind of sets up the Lily plot in episode 7, which, you guys know how I felt about that. So like I said, I'm not going to try to talk about that a ton. But the only other really big thing that happened in this episode is you have Amaya, and as we thought, Amaya is the only one staying from the JSA. Well, we find in this episode that's actually not true. There's also Obsidian, who is this guy who can turn into a shadow, and he's obviously not happy to see that because she abandoned them without warning them in the 1940s, and you can tell that he really is doing what he can to try to get her back there. We don't really know what this is all about, but we do get a scene with him and Amaya. You can see that he wants her to go back. We know that Amaya is there on a revenge mission, essentially, eventually, but we don't really know what is really going to happen there. But overall, I thought it started off as a really fun caper, just like, a fun protect history sort of episode. That kind of episode and everything was just kind of a fun rescue mission, but then it turned into something completely different once Sarah had to intervene and do something that was just really out of character, and really I think was only there to create drama for the episode. It is the episode that focuses the most on plot out of these three, but surprisingly it is in fact the worst of the bunch. I thought it definitely was the weakest that we had here, but that definitely does make up once we get to episode 6, which is something completely different entirely. So, unlike episode 5, like I said, I think the 80s time period actually worked well here. Episode 6 is the best the show has given us. I mean, this is by far was my favorite episode of the season. I really did love episode 6 overall. Episode 6, we see the team join back up with Hex, and again, I don't have a ton to say about this episode because a lot of it is just them trying to save Hex from his big old rival Turnbull, who Turnbull was genuinely very intimidating, and the way they set up Hex before I thought was really well done. There's not a ton of exposition to do with him, but we do find out more about him in this episode, what he went through and everything, and I definitely really did like getting the backstory of him here. I thought it was cool to see the team up of Hex and Sarah. I thought those two worked very well together because he doesn't really trust Sarah at first, and he doesn't really understand her loyalty, but because of how good she is at what she does, eventually he does begin to trust her, and I really did like seeing it overall. I thought that was definitely a lot of fun to see. So definitely I thought that was very well done here. But again, it was just a really fun Western episode. And that's something the Legend of Tomorrow does really well, is they do really well with episodes that don't really have to do with a lot of the plot of what's going on. Just a fun, disposable episode. And this wasn't just a fun, disposable episode. This was a really great Western, honestly. This was a really great episode that had some awesome action. It had some really compelling stuff going on, and I really enjoyed this one overall. I thought it was really well done, and also was probably Nate's best episode, because this is the episode where Nate, he really wants to start being Steel. He wants to get his own costume and everything like that, and basically he does in fact being the one to actually save Hex, which I thought that was really cool to see. And in the end, at the end of the episode, Ray actually makes him the costume of Steel, and that is how he got the costume in episode 7. So I thought that was definitely cool to see. And then the only other real big thing to talk about in this episode is that we see Stein. He's having these visions, and this is how he started to have the visions of Lily and everything. We don't really know what that's all about, but when he mentions, we know that he mentions Clarissa a lot, but in this episode he starts to kind of forget Clarissa, so I don't know if he's forgetting Clarissa or what's really going on with that, but I thought that was definitely interesting. And again, we know what's really happening with, him in episode 7, so I don't really have a ton to say about that, but this definitely was the best of the 3. I thought this was a really fun episode overall. I think Legends of Tomorrow does really well with these fun episodes, and that's something that definitely was very well utilized here. I thought the team dynamic was great, I thought the way everyone interacted was great, and I just thought this was a really fun Western episode that is one of the best that I think the show has done so far. So overall, not a ton to say about these 3 episodes, not surprising at all, because like I said, a lot of it did get resolved in episode 7. Ray has his Adam costume back, Nate is now Steel. I'm looking forward to seeing their dynamic. I love the dynamic of Ray and Nate together. I think they work really, really well. They have very common personalities, and they work really well together. As much as I like Mick and Ray, because I do like their clashing and things like that, I like this dynamic of Ray and Nate. I hope that we continue to go with them, because they just work really well together, and that's something I love in the show, is the character interactions. I think they've really increased that a lot here, and that's something that's very well done. The Legion of Doom, I am very interested in seeing the way this is going to go down. Dark and Thawne, how long are they going to be able to continue this, and are the Legends going to realize that Thawne is in fact the one they're following? I don't think they realize that this is the Reverse Flash. I mean, they know that obviously who they're, after is a speedster, but they don't really know what's going on there, so that's definitely going to be very interesting. And then Stein, what Stein did, is that going to have an after effect, with his wife? Because we know that Lily obviously is alive. We don't really know what happened to Clarissa. She just says that Clarissa's gone, so I don't really know what's going to happen with that. I think that's definitely going to be very interesting. And I like that this is Stein's fault. Like, Stein's the one that caused this. But now it's made me think that that could be the reason why Laurel's back on Arrow. We don't really know. It might not be Barry's fault. But either way, guys, I really did enjoy these 3 episodes. Even episode 5, which I thought was very out of character for Laurel. I thought these episodes worked pretty well overall. I definitely really did enjoy them. And then Amaya, how long is Amaya going to be able to continue what she's doing? Like I said, Obsidian is out there. Who else survived? I think there are definitely a couple more that definitely did survive. Are we going to see more of Obsidian? I don't really know. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I didn't have a ton to say about these episodes, but again, these episodes, there's just not really a ton to say about them unless I'm reviewing like the full episode to you guys. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next, which will be for the mid-season finale Legends tomorrow, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.